Hello, welcome to the Modern Sage podcast. This is Megan McGill, and thank you for joining me today for another episode where we're going to talk about a subject I've been wanting to write about and talk about for many years. And that topic is schooling. And my question is traditional schooling, especially in the United States, for the purpose of education or for the purpose of daycare? And the reason I say that is not because I think, oh, they're not learning enough. It's just like going to daycare. Um, I mean that more because of just the amount of hours. They are there, 7+ hours a day. Is it because that's how long they need to learn, or is that because their parents work and the parents need the kids to be somewhere for that long? That being said, if it's about education, then it's pretty well known today that kids don't need more than about 3 to 4 hours tops of education every single day. So, why are we holding our kids accountable to be learning for 7 hours a day? And I know through that 7 hours, they might have lunch or snack or go to a different class, transition times, a little bit of playtime outside. And I say a little bit, so it's not 7 straight hours, but we all know we've all, been there, done that. And I think we're getting to a point where this system is very old, and I think it's breaking. It's something that I've always been skeptic of. I was really fortunate when I was in college. For some reason, I had to take maybe an elective class or something. I had to take an education class. And my mom was a teacher growing up, so I was used to being in a classroom, helping my mom staple papers, do all the things, because teachers are obviously overworked, underpaid, and undervalued. And it's really hard work. And I love teaching, which is why I really enjoy podcasting. But I knew I could never be a teacher because that was just way too much. Um, and so, anyway, I went into this education class thinking, like, I don't know, I guess I'd learn some things about it and probably know a lot of what I'd already grown up seeing. But I was kind of surprised that this was a very alternative perspective on education, where, we were reading books about obviously where education started, as we know it today, modern education. Going from the one room schoolroom to, bigger schools, and how the systems, sitting in your desk, listening to a bell ring, changing classes, having a lunch break, then getting back to work again. That all started, at the turn of the century with the Industrial Revolution, and that was for, the Ford system, based on Ford cars. That was really popular to industrialize, human work for, bigger products and things like that, and to be on a work line. And basically, you would work 8 hours a day, the bell would ring, you would have to change from, one part of your job to another bell would ring, and then it's, you get your certain lunch break, and then you go back to work, right? And you all sit in lines, you walk in lines, you're basically being trained to work like a machine. And so that was really a big deal again in the Industrial Revolution. Like many things, we have never changed. So, meanwhile, and I remember when I went to college, and so this is now, 20 years ago. Um, even back then, we were starting to notice that, hey, the US is not keeping up with other countries in terms of their education. I remember one thing we were studying in class was just the way that we were sitting in rows, and we weren't, other countries at least sat at a circular table and had more conversations and more expansion, and like versus just regurgitating information and, is it A, B, or C, and if it's none of those, it's got to be one of those. You can't expand upon that or defend your answer, even if it might be maybe slightly different than what the ideal correct answer is, which is what other countries were doing. So there was a lot of talk about that. And then, of course, as every presidential, person would get in, they would always try to do something noble for education. And increase, we got to keep up with these other countries, so we must learn more. Our kids aren't learning enough, so let's have no child left behind and, get this going in their education and hold them to this standard. And so it just keeps piling on. And oh wait, now there's no time for recess. Well, we can cut that down, so we'll cut it down to a minimum. Yes, now the states are saying, well, they at least need a minimum of this much to protect their recess. Okay, that's good, but it's so bare minimal, right? I think my daughter right now has about 20 minutes for her 7 or so hour day, and she's 5. That's outrageous. But anyway, that's the bare minimum. So they'll do the bare minimum. They'll cut the PEs, they'll cut the, of course, home ec and wood shop and the mechanic class and all those things that used to be, even in my generation, were getting cut right before I get into high school. Oh, they used to have the wood shop, and then last year they cut it, so they don't have wood shop anymore or whatever it is. Home ec, it's like, heaven forbid we educate people on taking care of a home and managing a home because everyone lives in one. But that's not important because when you're a machine, you don't need to do that kind of stuff, right? So it was really eye-opening taking this class where I was starting to learn, oh, wait, education isn't about making smart people. Education is learning how to turn people into people who follow, and people who follow directions, don't question, stay in line, do what they're told, and put things aside, like their, human emotions, their feelings, their connection to their families, because that doesn't matter. You need to be on the line every day working. So if your kid's sick at home, I don't know what to tell you. You got to be at work. It's just that. So we're now starting to take the human out of human because we're also turning them into essentially machines or robots. And this system has never changed. We've made, things here or there. So my daughter is in kindergarten. She sits at a circle table. I think pretty much through that school, they sit at circular tables. I don't know if they have rows. Okay, so maybe we're making a little bit of progress there. But the hours are insane. I know when I was in elementary school, it was 8:30 to 3, which is a long day. She has to be at her desk at 7:50, and then she gets out at 3:15. So it's a longer day. She only has a 20-minute recess. And if there's inclement weather, then obviously that gets cut, and then she has zero time outside. I know when I was in school, I had two recesses. I had like a 10:30-ish one and a 1 o'clock-ish one, kind of like after lunch. And then we would go home at 3. So, like, it's different. And of course, the rate in which they're learning is a lot. Like, they are busy, busy all day long. And I've been volunteering for the PTA so that I can be kind of keeping my finger on the pulse, because it's something that I just want to be as involved as I can, but obviously being very humbled about everything that has to go into the PTA. And now I'm kind of learning my lesson the hard way. But really, my whole goal was just to be in the school, seeing things live, kind of being the fly on the wall. And they are constantly moving. And of course, these teachers work their butts off, and they are enslaved to the same system that's enslaving our kids. It's not their fault. They are doing everything that they can to do right by the kids, teach to the curriculum. But again, the problem is why are we mandating this for kids to be learning at this rate and so busy to this rate and not any time for play and creativity? And I mean that, Einstein said that, work is for children is play. Like, that's their job, is to play. And the more they play, the more their mind expands. But again, when you go back to, well, why is the system here? Well, of course, the system actually isn't here to expand minds, and the system isn't here to expand knowledge. The system is actually here to kind of do the opposite because we just want people who listen and do what they're told. So, and I know that's a really extreme way of thinking about it, but it's one that I've been looking into for like basically 20 years. And then when I had my daughter in 2020, I thought, okay, I now have 5 years to decide what we're going to do. Traditional school is like bottom of the list. probably not going to do that, even though our elementary school is a block up the street. Homeschooling is super ideal, but I don't know if that's the right fit for me. I am just now starting to get back into podcasting. This is what I love doing. I love health coaching. I love talking about health. I need this space and time to do my own thing. So, homeschooling seemed to be probably not on the table either. But of course, there's lots of great hybrids now, which is amazing. And they're getting more and more popular because I know, especially since 2020, but people have been really doubting the school systems. And again, nothing against the teachers. The teachers are like the most wonderful people in the world. They're so selfless. They work so hard. They're so underappreciated. And they are, like doctors, like they just are doing what they're told. They're not bad. It's just where is this coming from? Because where it's coming from might not be as, I don't know, well intended as what we would hope. That's the whole thing. And this is where I say a lot of times, like, I've seen this movie before. It's like a plug and chug. Once you start seeing these patterns, you see them playing out in healthcare, quote unquote, I should just say, in the medicine world. You see it playing out in education. You see it playing out in the job in the workforce. You see it playing out in politics. You see it playing out in economics. You see it playing out in every aspect of the world. And you go, oh, okay. And is it nefarious? I don't know. Is it for everyone's best interest? No, it's not. So, we're in this like this time of such flux, which is beautiful, but I think it's really making us put our money where our mouth is. We really have to be mindful, and I don't think we can afford anymore to be ignorant to this. Again, these are hard concepts to think and hard concepts to doubt, a system that not only educated you, educated your parents, is what our whole society rides on is education, then going into college, then getting a good job, and then being in the workforce and making money and supporting your family and retiring and da 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 da. Like when you start questioning that, that's a lot to take on. But when we're raising kids in this era, we almost don't have a choice to question. We really have to, and we have to say, and it's one of those things I think in my last podcast when I'm talking about questioning, like we have to think, why are we doing this? Again, is it because I work and yes, traditional school in the US is free. Do we just send them there? Which there's nothing wrong with that. That's totally legitimate. And so again, to my point, is it a daycare, a free daycare? If it's for education, we know so well these days, again, that kids only need 3 to 4 hours education. So if we are putting kids in school for 7 to 8 hours because the parents are working, then let's educate the kids for 3 to 4 hours and let them play the rest of the time. I mean, and there have been so many studies done on kids getting outside, getting more sunshine, having more playtime, more creativity, more, honestly, just being bored increases kids, knowledge base, it increases their self-esteem, it increases their attendance at school. I mean, literally every good thing that can come from that comes from that. Their test scores ironically go up because they actually can think clearly and they're not stressed and overworked. So, like, there is only upsides to doing this. And yet we don't. We stay so stuck. Again, is it nefarious? I don't know. It's just not utilizing a human the way that they are so programmed naturally to be. I know when both of my girls were born, I mean, they were just bright-eyed, eyes open, looking around at the world like, my oldest, I would call her Curious Curie. And that was in day one. She was just like, whoa, like looking at everything. And kids question everything, which is, again, going back to my last podcast, beautiful. Like, that's amazing. She's questioning things. Yes, because she's learning, right? And she's naturally curious. And the reason I'm doing this podcast today, which I've been wanting to do for so long, is because yes, we're in this pickle. It's January. She's had one semester of kindergarten in a traditional school, and we've chosen to do that school up the street for a few reasons. But my heart has always been a little, I'll say, tight. I'm not super relaxed into that. My trust isn't as open for that. It's been anytime she comes home and there's "Oh, I don't want to go to school," or "today was boring," or whatever, my heart just goes, "Oh no, this is everything you feared and it's happening right now. What are you gonna do?" Like, let's pull her out, let's pull her out. Like my gut, my literally one foot is out the door at all times, which is not a comfortable place to be. And I'm trying to do a lot of work around myself, this fall and going into the holidays about it. And luckily with the holidays, it was kind of a good distraction for kids, and there's activities at school that keep it fun. And I was like, you know what? You're doing good. Like, you might have these alternative thoughts and ideals, but, we can't always act on those ideals. And, the fact that you're just open to listen to her, that's amazing. That's something that not every kid gets. So it's okay that she's in school. It's okay that she's having a hard time. Like, you can help her through that, and that's going to make her stronger. Um, so I've been doing a lot of that work with myself. But then now going back to school in January, the first week was a lot of, "I don't want to go to school. I don't want to go to school." And I'm like, okay, that's first week back. Kids aren't listening at school. It's really upsetting me. Kids aren't listening. Okay, well, you can only control yourself, all the things, right? Take care of yourself, make sure you're the one who's listening and doing the right thing, da 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 da. And then the second week's coming, same thing. And now the class is getting punished for not listening. They're having to go to another classroom and with a different teacher if they don't listen. Like these things that I'm like, oh, I don't like this. This isn't really, where's the positive reinforcement? I'm not saying that they don't do any, but there's a lot of this kind of old school stuff that I'm just, they're kids. They're not listening. Like they need to be running around more. I think it has everything to do that they only have recess 20 minutes a day. Why would they be listening for 7 hours or 6 hours? Like that's a lot to ask from a 5-year-old. And kindergarten used to be half day, not that long ago either. It's a lot to ask from a 5-year-old. So I decided today to keep her home, which again, it's a slippery slope. You don't want to just like give in every time that they say, "I don't want to go to school." Okay, stay home. Um, I'm trying to be mindful of like keeping her absences very low. Um, but also I'm like, well, gosh, she's 5. If she's already saying these things, I mean, this is stress. This was like equivalent to somebody not wanting to go to work, getting upset that their boss is going to get mad at them or their client is going to yell at them or something like that. That's stressful. And for a 5-year-old, that's what she's going through right now. And I don't want this starting this early. This is too early for me. She's too young. So here I am again at the drawing board. And again, this time last year, I felt just as confused and lost, thinking, wow, 5 years. I mean, I was looking into homeschooling. I was looking at, a curriculum that I love, Wild and Free. I was, enrolled actually even into an alternative school, just a few minutes up the road, but I don't think that was the right fit for us. So then we went to this Spanish immersion. So Kiri goes up the street to our elementary school. It's a Title I school, and so they're able to have Spanish immersion, which I love that idea. So 80% of everything is taught in Spanish. And half of her class is native Spanish speakers, half of the class is native English speakers. And I think that's incredible. I mean, when I think of long-term goals for my kids, I'm like, oh, just experiencing the world, traveling the world, being able, if you can speak English and Spanish, you can communicate with easily, like, I don't know, 75% of the world. Like, that's amazing. I think Mandarin Chinese is like the other percentage that would like, you could probably communicate with every single person on the planet at that point. So I think that's an amazing skill. And of course, when you do it now, um, it's so much easier when they're so young. And for this program, you can only start in kindergarten. You can't come in halfway. So it was kind of a now or never kind of thing, but also, I mean, it's lovely. Like the school is lovely. The teachers, the people there are really, really sweet. They work their butts off. They're doing great. And when we went to the meeting, it surprised me and I was impressed. And I was like, you know what? My list of pros and cons. The con side is very long when it comes to traditional school. But these pros, there's about five of them that are strong and they're good. And one of the big ones was learning Spanish, becoming bilingual. I think it's good also learning the culture. So she does a folkloricas dance every Wednesday morning before school, and she wears the big skirt, and the little boys twirl them around, and she's learning the Latino culture, and I think that's a beautiful thing. So that is so cool. I love that. But again, going back to all of my hesitations now that she's saying all these things again and again and again, I'm like, oh my gosh, what do I do? I again feel like I'm at the drawing board again. So she's home today and it's been a nice day, no TV, but she's been outside. We rode bikes. I'm trying to visualize my life doing what I'm doing right now in this moment, which is podcasting and having her home, maybe homeschooling, maybe finding a hybrid. There's a homeschool kind of drop off 2 days a week that we could do. So I'm like, registration's coming up. I need to go visit it, inquire about it, get an application ready because that's coming up so fast as all these things do. Before you're ready, you have to like commit and apply. You parents know how it goes. So, I think I just got to keep going that way. It's just been something that my heart has never been totally satisfied with. Traditional school, obviously. But even with her there, I've been like a little uneasy about it. So anyway, I just kind of wanted to talk about that today, bring up this concept of like, why are we doing school the way that we do in the US? Is it the hours because it's daycare? If so, then we need to lower the hours of education and let them play more, no matter what age they are. Gosh, even when they're teenagers, like they just need to be like outside talking. I don't know. Like, it's just they're so young, and even when you go into the workforce, you don't want to be a slave either. So, like, could we just start readjusting the way that kids are being taught so that they can reimagine the workforce when they get older because they're not so ingrained in the old, broken way that we can now, like, raise kids in this new way that they'll reconceptualize how to educate and how to, you know, move forward in the world from that way. So it's a lot of food for thought. And then if we do traditional school the way that we do for education, it's like, well, obviously we're failing at that. I think we're like 35th in the world when it comes to education, which is funny because it's like the same statistic for medical and healthcare and health in the US. We're also ranked like 35th, which basically means we're last of all developed countries in the world. So it's like something's not working. Like, so what's got to give? And I think this is it. I think the first step is really starting to look at alternative educations. But again, I'm kind of having to put my money where my mouth is right now and go, okay, and I'm trying to kind of do two things at once, which is like, these are my ideals, but this is reality, and a lot of us are in that pickle. A lot of us can't always be in that idyllic scenario. We kind of have to be, more in like, well, realistically, I work all day and I need the kids to be there and it's free and it's just up the street, or whatever the thing is. And all of that is fair. But it's just food for thought. And that's where I'm currently at. So I thought that would be fun to share today. Thank you again so much for joining me on Modern Sage, and I hope you enjoyed this conversation. We'll have more things like this, but I think right now I'm just kind of rolling with what is the most pertinent of the day. and podcasting on that. So if you like this episode, please like it, please share with your friends, and please subscribe. So if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any other platform, please like it, please subscribe, and please share with your friends. Thank you so much, and I will see you soon on the Modern Sage podcast.